like start my video, or should I wait?
Mute yourself.
I just unmuted myself.
All right, folks, good evening. Welcome to our virtual open house session with UCF Housing. My name is Chris Dahlstrand. I serve as the Director for Communications and Visitor Engagement with the Office of Undergraduate Admissions, and I'm joined by Vincent Borello, who is a Marketing Coordinator with UCF Housing, and my colleague in admissions, Hayden Lau, who serves as the Senior Assistant Director for Visitor Engagement. We're really pleased that you took time out of your evening to join us today. And I apologize that we're getting started a few minutes late here. We had some technical issues, as happen occasionally with Zoom, even after all this time of using it. So I appreciate you bearing with us. I think we've got everything figured out and should have a pretty seamless transition to our presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping items for you. If you have questions, please enter them using the Q&A located at the bottom of your screen in the middle. That is where both Hayden and I will be answering questions by chatting back with you. Some of the questions that are asked we might feel are more appropriate for the entire audience to hear. So we will flag them to be answered later on in the session when we do Q&A toward the end. So if you don't get an immediate response, it's likely because we are just waiting to pose that question to Vincent, and he'll answer that live here. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to all of the great things that happen along the college journey. And this is certainly one of those things that's very important. We recognize that in the college search process. So we hope that you're going to get some real valuable information today. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over here to Vincent. So the show is all yours.
Well, thank you so much for that, Chris. Great introduction. I really appreciate that. Once again, folks, my name is Vincent. I'm the marketing coordinator for the Department of Housing and Residence Life, as we previously talked about. So today we're going to take a look at a little bit of a presentation with some information about housing for you. And then we'll follow that with a Q&A. So I'm going to really quick start sharing my screen. And we are going to go ahead and get started with our presentation today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is we're going to go over what you can expect and what you can look for when you're looking for all of your UCF housing on-campus needs. And then we're also going to talk about what to expect as far as our different community choices, as well as some of the other elements of off-campus housing and additional resources that are available to you on campus as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So just a quick little overview of what you can expect from our presentation today. First, we'll go over the different types of housing that we have available on campus. And then afterwards, we'll go over some helpful tips and tricks as far as the move-in process goes and packing for move-in. After that, we'll go in a little bit more into what you can expect once you're actually moved in on campus and what you can expect post-move-in as well. And for all of our concerned parents out there, we'll also go over some safety and cooking in the halls, information, tricks as well, because we want to make sure that your mates are having the safest, most comfortable experience when they're living with us on campus. And then finally, we'll conclude our presentation with some information about some additional resources that are available to your students when they're living on campus. And finally, we'll conclude with some off-campus information for anybody that might see that as a better option for their night when they're coming in, okay? So first, let's talk about our housing types. So the biggest differentiation between our housing types, oh, I was just informed that it looks like my screen share is not on. Bear with me one moment. Alrighty, we should be good to go now. So we'll go ahead and get started here from our choices slide. So as you can see, we have a multitude of different housing communities that are available for you, both on campus here on the main campus, as well as at our other campuses that UCF also has located whereabouts. So as you can see, we have a total of 10 different housing communities. The predominant majority of those are going to be located on main campus, but in addition to those communities, we do also have options available at our other campuses that UCF also offers. So as you can see, we also have our Union West community, which is located at the UCF downtown campus, and we also have our Rosen College dorms, which are located at the Rosen College of Hospitality Management. So as you can see here, this is a quick little map that just shows you the Rosen College apartments and Union West in retrospect to where they would be in relation to the main campus. Now, as you can see, it is a little bit of a drive depending on where you're coming from. So from Rosen to the actual main campus itself, it's a 40-minute drive, so it is a little bit of a drive. Union West is going to be a little bit shorter. It's a little under half an hour. But bear in mind as well that in addition to that, we also have complimentary shuttle services that will take students to and from either Rosen or Union West over here on the main campus. So transportation will not necessarily be an issue if your student does decide to live at one of those communities and they need to get over to main campus. So next, let's take a look at our housing types. So when we say housing types, the main distinction is the distinction of what the contract looks like and how long those go for. So let's break those down a little bit. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see what we have are our academic year agreements. An academic year agreement is essentially a fancy way of saying that it's for the fall semester and the spring semester. So they're 2-semester agreements. The communities that you see listed down there, Apollo, Libra, Hercules and Nike, Lake Claire, and Neptune, are all freshman-only communities, meaning that only freshmen can apply there and only freshmen can live there. We'll go into a little bit more detail in a little bit as to how those communities are differentiated and what the actual room layouts look like. But it's just important to know that those are communities that are specifically only for freshmen, and they are academic year agreements. So they are only for the fall and spring semester. And then over here on the right-hand side, you'll see our annual contracts. Annual contract is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to last a full calendar year. So it's a 3-semester agreement total for the fall semester, the spring semester, and the following summer semester. That's very important to know. Of the communities that we have on our main campus are annual agreements. Those are the Towers and Northview. Towers and Northview are typically 2 of our most sought after communities because they're 2 of our only communities on campus where you're guaranteed to have your own bedroom. You may be sharing a bathroom with one other person, but you're at least guaranteed to have your own bedroom. And it is very important to remember that those are annual contracts. I've worked in the housing department in a variety of capacities, and a lot of times folks will sign up for the Towers or Northview and not realize that there is a mandatory summer portion attached to it. So keep that in mind. If the length of that contract is an issue for you, you may want to look at some of our academic year communities. We already talked a little bit about Rosen and Union West, but again, the Rosen campus is located at the Rosen College of Hospitality, and we have our Rosen College apartments there. These are not necessarily specifically for hospitality majors. It is not a requirement for you to be a hospitality major to live in the Rosen College apartments, but it is located on their campus. And then in addition to that, again, we have our Union West community, which is located in UCF. Not required to be a UCF downtown student necessarily to live there, but it is an advantage if you're living down there already and you have classes. So let's break down our academic year agreements a little bit. So again, as we talked about earlier, these are fall and spring agreements, so they're only for 2 semesters. My apologies, the check boxes are a little wonky there, but we'll still break it down pretty easy. So the top 1, 2, 3, 4 communities that you see on the screen there, Apollo, Libra, Nike, and Hercules, all of those communities are shared suites. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is that when you open the door, there's going to be 2 people in one room, and next door, there will be another room with another 2 folks living in that. And then there will be 1 bathroom that all 4 residents will share. There will be sinks located in each of the bedrooms, but the actual toilet and the shower will be communal. So it'll be shared by all 4 of those students within your own individual suite. So again, those top 4 communities are all going to be shared bedroom options. And then the final 2 options down there are Neptune and Lake Claire. Neptune and Lake Claire are our 2 academic year options that actually offer private bedrooms. So in both Neptune and Lake Claire, what you would be looking at would be a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom setup. So everybody's going to have their own private bedroom, and then you'll share a bathroom with 1 other individual. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Again, similar to Towers and Northview, Neptune and Lake Claire are typically 2 of our more sought after communities. So it definitely helps to apply early. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So next, let's talk about the Towers. The Towers are definitely one of our most popular communities here on campus. They're located basically in the heart of campus, right next to Edition Arena. As you can see, there's a lot of amenities that are offered to your student if they are a resident at the Towers. There's study lounges located on every floor that are open 24 hours a day. Also, every Towers room has a full dishwasher. There's also exclusive resident-only events that are specific to Knights Plaza and the Towers buildings. There's also private garage parking for Towers residents. So if you're actually a resident in the Towers community, you actually have a differentiated parking pass from the residents of other communities on the main campus. So you have 2 garages that are specifically just for our Towers residents. And then also we have one of our living learning communities. Throughout our housing communities here on the main campus, we have different floors that are allocated for specific residential programs that help students that want to meet and interact with and spend some of their introductory college time with students of a like-minded nature. And one of those that we offer is in Tower 3. It's a living learning community specifically for students that are in the honors college. So that's definitely something if you're in the honors college, definitely something to consider as well. And then as you can see at the bottom there, Knights Plaza, which is just the surrounding area around the Towers buildings, have a lot of really cool amenities as well. There's All Night Study, which is one of 2 all night study locations on the main campus. Just like it sounds, open 24 hours. Printing, it's anything like that. There's also a Barnes & Noble with a Starbucks that's conveniently located right next to Tower 3. And then also the Towers communities and Knights Plaza have their own RWC Fitness Center. And like we mentioned before, right next to the arena for basketball games. So now let's talk about Northview. Northview is probably, for lack of a better term, our fanciest housing community in a lot of ways. As you can see, we've titled it First Class Amenities under the description. Again, Northview does fall under the same annual contract that Towers does. So it's going to be for the fall semester, the spring semester, and the summer semester. But as you can see, the amenities are definitely worth it. There's a resort style pool. Northview has its own fitness center located on the bottom floor. There's also a sky deck, which is located on the very, very top of the building. And there's typically events that are held up there throughout the year. There's a game room with TVs and video game systems and a pool table set up in there, as well as a ping pong table. There's also exclusive garage parking, again, only for Northview residents, and a shuttle that takes you to and from the main campus. There's also dryer unit in Northview. So every unit, no matter what, is going to have its own washer and dryer in there. All utilities are included. And we also have, Northview is also home to our Hillel and Catholic centers. And there's also a kosher cafe in there. The really, really cool thing about Northview that kind of separates it from a lot of our other housing communities is that Northview is the only community on campus where you're guaranteed to have your own bedroom and your own bathroom. So you're going to be in either a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom setup or a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom setup. But either way, you'll be guaranteed to have your own bedroom and your own bathroom as well. So let's look at Rosen really quick. So these are our Rosen College apartments. Again, fall spring agreement with an optional summer portion at the end for our Rosen residents. These apartments offer a community pool. It's also a gated campus community. So there is a guard out there and a guard gate. And one of the really great things about the Rosen College apartments is how close not only the apartments, but Rosen itself is to Disney and Universal Studios. Tons of hospitality opportunities for students in that general area. close to all the theme parks, the Orlando attractions and everything like that. So if you are interested in hospitality, or if you think that your student has an interest in possibly majoring in something related to hospitality, I would definitely give Rosen a look, and subsequently our Rosen College apartments as well. And then we have Union West, annual contract, fall, spring, and summer semester. Again, Union West is located in our UCF downtown campus, so it is catered specifically more towards our residents that are in classes at UCF downtown. And as you can see here, we have a list of all of the programs that have migrated over to UCF downtown, excuse me. So all of the majors and programs that are listed on there, if your student is interested in potentially majoring in one of them, then it might really be worth it to take a serious look at Union West, since a lot of their classes would be located at UCF downtown. And this is a little bit more of a specific breakdown of what the Union West housing communities look like. So as you can see, we have a couple of different floor plans. We have a 4-2 suite, a 4-2 apartment, as well as a 4-4 apartment option to choose from. And we also, as you can see there, have listed some of our Union West amenities. So there's study lounges, kitchen, and laundry on every floor of Union West. There's also a lot of layers of security at Union West. Key card access throughout the entire building for safety concerns. Again, exclusive resident-only events. A couple years ago, we had some folks from The Voice that came and performed at Union West, so there's always some fun and exciting stuff going on there. And most units actually have a skyline view of downtown Orlando, which is an amazing sight to see. And there's also secure indoor bike storage as well for those students that are bringing their bicycles. So let's talk about room selection. So once you have submitted your housing application, first question on your mind is, how can I make sure that I get the community that I want? How can I make sure that I'm with the roommates that I want to live with, right? So we'll go over that process a little bit. To walk you through the timeline of things, when you submit your housing application, after you submit it, you're going to receive 2 different emails, okay? The first email that you receive is going to be your email letting you know that we have received your application and we are currently processing it. After some time has passed and everything has gone through the system and your application has been processed, you will receive a second email. And this is your confirmation email, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's an email that's letting you know, congratulations, you have been confirmed to have a spot waiting for you on campus. In that confirmation email, it's also going to include instructions, as you can see on the screen here, for the room selection process. So here for UCF on-campus housing, students choose their own rooms, okay? The appointment date and time is based on when you submitted your housing application. For any incoming freshmen, all housing applications are on a first-come, first-served basis. And again, circling back to what we were just talking about, when you submit your housing application determines when your appointment is going to be to log into your MyUCF and select which community and which room you would like. So for example, if student A submitted their housing application on Saturday at 9 a.m. and student B submitted their application on the same day, Saturday at 11 a.m., student A is going to have their room selection appointment time be earlier than student B because they submitted their application earlier. And as far as the roommate situation goes, so if you do have other folks that you're interested in rooming with and having as your roommates when you're living on campus, what you'll do is before you go through the room selection process, you'll create a roommate group. And these can include up to 4 students for 4 beds. Now, typically what's going to happen is, so you're going to get to choose the group leader, who's going to be the person whose name is assigned to the group internally, essentially. And typically what you want to do is you'll want to make sure that the individual in your group that submitted their application the earliest, since they're going to have the earliest appointment time, you'll want that person to be the leader of the roommate group, because since that person has the earliest appointment time, they'll be able to go in and actually pull the remainder of the roommates into the group with them and put them into their rooms, okay? So that's important stuff to know. Again, remember, submit the application. Once you get that email letting you know that you've been confirmed for housing, that email will include instructions on the room selection process, and it will also include the date and the time that you will be able to log in and select your community in your room, okay? Housing payments, no paper bills over here. Everything housing related is going to be paid online through your student's MyUCF portal. You can also find the payment dates online, as you can see from the quick screen grab here. If you go to our housing website, housing.ucf.edu, and hover over the costs tab, there's a little payment section underneath there that includes all of the important dates. Now, for those of you that are planning on using financial aid of some sort to pay for housing, this is really important to note. Financial aid is going to pay tuition and fees first, automatically. And then anything that happens to be left over from that will then be applied to housing. So that is important to know just for financial aid reasons. If you do have any questions about payment, how to make a payment, how we can set up a payment plan, anything of that nature. We have a great team of housing accountants that work for our department that will be able to help you with those questions, and we'll be sure to get you their information at the end of the presentation today. So now let's talk about move-in tips. First things to know when you're packing for move-in, quick list of things that we're going to want to leave at home. Unfortunately, we cannot have hoverboards. Crushing, I know. Also, unfortunately, we do not allow pets into our communities here. We do allow emotional support animals and service animals. If your student does have one of those two, either an emotional support animal or a service animal, when they're filling out their housing application, there will be a section on the application where they can indicate that information and answer some necessary questions. Obviously, no candles, fire hazard, and I hate that we have to put it on here, but please refrain from bringing weapons and drugs when you're moving in. As you can see from the screen grab up here, this is just a quick little navigation for how to get a plethora of move-in information. If you go to resources on our website, general move-in information, it'll break everything down and include the information over today as well. Renter's insurance, we won't talk about this a whole lot. It is recommended for all residents. Damages to anything are not covered by UCF. We strongly recommend that you check your homeowner's insurance policy. Again, we don't really spend a whole lot of time on this, but if you would like some more information about that, if you're interested, again, you can go to our website, go to resources, move in information, and there will be a whole section on there with the answers that you're looking for. So before you arrive, for many of you, when you guys are moving in, this is going to be your first time and possibly your students' first time ever stepping foot on campus. So it is good to make a plan ahead of time to make sure that you have a smooth transition. We highly recommend checking the housing website. Again, that housing website, 90 to 95% of the time, if you have a housing related question, you'll be able to find it on the website, I promise you. As you can see, these are a list of things that we offer on the website as far as move-in goes that are really helpful. So obviously we offer directions to all of the different communities on campus. And then we also have some really helpful maps that show you some of the different areas that are relevant to you when you're moving in, including our assigned unloading zones. So that those areas in the communities where you can actually pull up, unload your students' belongings, and then park your car elsewhere. And then also information tents. So throughout our communities, every community on campus during move-in, we have information tents set up that are staffed by housing employees. They'll be there handing out maps, water, answering any questions or concerns that anybody may have. There's also some really good information on there about where you can park long term, as well as what the procedure is going to look like on the day of for actually checking into your space. Some tips as well. We do recommend that you bring a hand cart or a dolly of some kind. We do have our own at the communities. Every community has hand carts and dollies that we can utilize, but unfortunately we do not have hundreds of them, and we certainly do not have enough to accommodate every family that's moving in on move-in weekend. So we do recommend, if you have the means to do so, to bring your own, and also to bring lots of water and comfortably. It's located here in Florida. Unfortunately, the weather can be very unpredictable. I've worked some move-in weekends in the past where it has been just pouring rain the entire time, and I've worked others where it was bright and sunny. So you just never know, and it's always good to be prepared. Some more move-in tips. As you can tell, we take the comfortable clothing reminder very seriously. It is included twice in this presentation. So again, wear comfortable clothes. As you can see underneath that, check the local weather. Never know what's going to happen. It's always good to be prepared for whatever's coming. We also recommend that you download and check the UCF Move-In app. That's really helpful on Move-In. It includes a lot of really helpful tips and information. And then also, as you notice after that, it is very important to know your student's NID and password. They will need to know that information when they're moving in. So just make sure that that's on their brain as well. And the last part isn't bolded, but it is really important, and I do want to emphasize it. The key to your student's room will only be given to the student. Okay, so mom and dad cannot go to the check-in desk and check in for the student and receive. They'll need to present some kind of photo ID in order to make sure that they're the right person, and then we'll get them checked in. Getting set up, once you move in, want to get your internet set up and everything, there's a really easy setup guide that's located on the UCF mobile app along with YouTube videos. Also through the UCF mobile app, you can submit maintenance requests or cleaning requests. So we very, very highly recommend that residents download that app. And then after you move in, that's when the fun stuff part. So you get to explore all around the communities. These are some examples of some things that you should look for after you move in. As you'll see, every resident has their own PO box and their own PO box key. So you'll definitely want to go see your community mail center and check out where your PO box is located. And then also the community office. Every one of our communities has an office that's centrally located. They're staffed 24 hours a day. So there's always a UCF housing employee in there to answer any questions or address any concerns that residents have. Also, our community center, again, every community has one. Typically, when we hold events or the RAs hold events for residents on their floor to help them get to know each other, that's where those will be located. And also, probably the most exciting thing on this entire slide, laundry rooms. So every one of our housing communities has its own laundry facilities. All of the laundry is actually operated through an app where you'll be able to pay for your laundry. And in my personal opinion, the coolest thing about it, on the actual app that we use for the laundry rooms, you can see in real time what machines are being used and which ones are free. So the days of carrying all your laundry to the laundry facility and then having to turn around dejected are basically over here at UCF. And then underneath that, we also have study lounges. Again, varying from the community, they will either be on every floor or there will be one per building. Again, open 24 hours, open to all the residents to utilize. And finally, your RA. Your best resource living on campus as a freshman is going to be your resident assistant, and there's one on every floor. They're going to be there to help make sure that you're getting acclimated, and they're basically just there to answer any questions or help you at all. So definitely get to know your RA once you move in. So what to expect? We expect our residents to know the rules. So if you go to the residents tab on our website, you can see our community living guide. That's something that we take very seriously here at UCF Housing, and it's very good to get to know. The community living guide includes our residential curriculum. So what is a residential curriculum? One of the things that separates UCF from other universities as far as on-campus housing goes is our commitment to helping our students become better citizens and also making sure that they leave UCF better than they were when they got here. And that comes from our residential curriculum. As you can see on the slide, UCF Housing and UCF as a university believes learning takes place everywhere, not just in the classroom. And the residential curriculum, this is a learning plan to guide and support residents throughout their college journey. As you can see, the mission statement, UCF residents will become active, engaged, and productive global citizens. The residential curriculum focuses on 3 key concepts: community engagement, self-awareness, and equity and inclusion. So the next step, getting involved. It's very critical that residents attend the floor and building meetings. Students who get involved are significantly more likely to be academically successful, and it's great to get to know your roommates and your neighbors. We also have lots of other opportunities to get involved on campus, including RHA and RHH. We also have a lot of internal jobs within the housing department. There's also area councils and the Housing Leadership Institute. So there are plenty of opportunities within housing and residence life for your student to get involved on campus. So let's talk really quick about meal plans and cooking. So if you are interested in purchasing a meal plan for your resident, you'll want to visit ucfdining.com. Meal plans are optional. They are not required for any residents. And there's also different tiers available to purchase. So there's one that's unlimited meals per semester, and then one that's a different amount of meals. So you'll want to make sure you find the plan that fits your budget and what you're looking for your student. We also have listed all the appliances that are permitted in the dorms. So residents are permitted mini fridges no bigger than 5 cubic feet, as well as a microwave no more than 1,000 watts. Now, as you can also see down there, I highly recommend that parents, you go over with your residents before they move in with us some cooking and fire safety tips. As you can see down there, the fire alarm fees are over $300. We also have a true story that we typically like to tell as a cautionary tale for incoming freshmen, where we had a student one year in one of our communities on campus who decided that he wanted to fry some chicken for dinner, and evidently he was not properly prepared to do so because he ended up causing $16,000 in fire damage. So trust me when I say you do not want that to be your student, so definitely make sure we go over some of those tips before they actually get here on campus. Parking. So freshmen are allowed to have cars, okay, first and foremost. We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but just as a reminder, Northview and Towers, you do have private garages that are located actually right within the communities themselves, and you do have to have a specific decal for the Towers garages. Then in addition to that, if your resident is not living in either of those communities and they just need to purchase a general parking pass, they can do that as well. Parking.ucf.edu, that'll take you to parking services website, and it'll automatically generate which parking passes they qualify for. So some safety awareness. Obviously, living on campus, we take safety very seriously. As I've mentioned a couple of times already, we have 24-hour staffing. We also have security cameras and the blue lights that are connected to UCF PD's main office. Those are super useful if you're ever across campus and it's dark, you want to make sure that you get home. You can have one of our UCF officers accompany you. And then we also have electronic keys and locks located at all of our communities as well. The UCF Police Department are great partners with us, and they provide us a lot of support and make sure that our residents are safe and sound. As you can see, that's just a list of some of the things that UCF PD offers that make our residents safer. We have Operation ID, as well as personal responsibility and bike registration. So if your student is bringing a scooter or a bicycle, anything like that, they do have the option of registering it with UCF PD in order to make sure that if anything does happen to their bike when it's on campus, that they can get it back very easily. So learning more. Everything is online. I'll say it one more time. Everything is online. I always tell folks when they have a question or an inquiry as far as housing goes, there is a 90 to 95% chance that if you have a question, you can find the answer to it on our housing website, housing.ucf.edu. As you can see on there, that's going to contain all of the information we went over in our presentation today, as well as general information, dates, payment rates, rules, everything like that. And then my.ucf.edu is significantly important as well. That's where your student is going to get all of their student-specific information, what their room assignment is, any charges that they incur, who their roommates are and their information, everything like that will be located on my UCF. As I mentioned earlier, highly recommend getting the UCF mobile app. It's for our Android. It has GPS on to help you find your way around campus. And it's also just a really helpful resource. It has access to basically all of the information from our housing website, as well as a lot of the other departments on campus. So it's definitely a very good resource to check out to just get some quick information on the go. And finally, student and family success. Help prepare your student for living with roommates. For most of our incoming freshmen, this is their first time ever living away from home, and it's their first time ever living with strangers, so to speak. So we definitely want to go over courtesy, resolving conflict, cleanliness, just getting them ready to live with other people that they may or may not have met before, and making sure that they're in the best position to be a good citizen and that they're upholding the rules and regulations that we have as far as living on campus. Check your night's email. I stress this to my student employees as often as I can. Your night's email is where any and all communication from the university is going to go. So anything as far as announcements or deadlines or any pertinent information for students, it's going to go to their night's email. So highly recommend checking that on a very regular basis. And also get ready for next year. So if you do with us on campus, you're a freshman, you decide afterwards that you want to continue living with us on campus. It is a very different process for students that are living on campus after their freshman year. We'll send out information for returning resident applications typically in late fall. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you're ready for that as well. We also offer virtual housing tours. So if anybody's interested in seeing what any of our communities look like and actually getting a chance to look inside one of the rooms, we do offer virtual housing tours for basically all of our communities. If you go to YouTube and actually type in UCF housing, it'll bring you to our YouTube channel where we have all of those virtual tour videos on there for you. And then also room measurements. So if anybody's interested in learning the measurements of the rooms or taking a look at what any of the furniture measurements are, you can visit our Facebook page. We have all of the room measurements listed on there for you. And that is the conclusion of our presentation today.
All right, Vince, thank you so much for sharing that information. Folks, I hope you found that to be interesting and enlightening and got some of your questions answered. Now's a great time to visit that Q&A down below. And if you do have questions before we wrap up this evening, feel free to send those our way. I do have for you a few questions here. And so let's talk a little bit about roommate selection. Can you tell us how would a first year student, a student who's coming in as a freshman, go about finding roommates? Are there different events? I believe there are some things online. Are those set up through housing? What kind of information and tips can you provide to our students here?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're coming in as a freshman and you don't necessarily know anyone, which does fit the mold for a lot of our students that are coming in. We do have a couple of options as far as students getting to know other prospective students and deciding whether or not you may want to room with those folks. So when you're submitting your housing application, there is going to be an additional thing afterwards that will allow you to fill out some information about yourself. And it'll also allow you to communicate with other students as well on there. So you'll be able to kind of get a feel for students that may share some of the same interests as you. And in addition to that service, we talked about this a little bit in the presentation, but we also have several living learning communities that are located throughout campus. And if you're coming into UCF and you're not necessarily sure of who you want to room with, but you do know, for example, that you really enjoy exercising and making sure that you eat right, we have our Healthy Nights Living Learning community that's located in Hercules, where you'll be living with and roommates with other students that are looking for a lot of the same things that you're looking for. That's the second option. The third option, which isn't the prettiest, we also really highly recommend utilizing social media. Typically, there's always a Facebook page for an incoming freshman class, and there's almost always parents and students posting in there about their students, and or the students posting about themselves, offering up some information about interests and things that they're into. And that's a really, really great resource for residents that are looking to find folks that share common interests with them and maybe a good fit for them as roommates. We've had a tremendous amount of success from students actually utilizing those pages to find their roommates. So lots of options.
And the random roommate selection is pretty successful too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We really don't have any issues with that. When I lived on campus as a freshman, I had completely random roommates, and I'm still best friends with those guys to this day. And that was almost 10 years ago now. So definitely, I'm a success story in that regard.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in college, but I remember having the exact same experience. We did not have that kind of that level of sophistication where I went to school, that you could visit with people or meet them online or anything like that. But it was completely random, and it worked out. So I understand that students might be a little anxious, especially about living with someone brand new.
Absolutely.
Maybe they haven't had that experience at home before. But trust the system, communicate to your RAs, to your area coordinators, the other folks in the housing community. And if there are issues, just rest assured that they'll be dealt with swiftly and taken care of. Your safety, your comfort is definitely our first priority. So can you talk to us a little bit about Florida prepaid and how that works with housing? Is that even a question that you know anything about?
It actually is. So
okay, great.
When students are coming in and they have Florida prepaid plans, so the Florida prepaid is going to cover whatever the cost of the most expensive shared bedroom option is on campus. Okay, so let me break that down just a little bit more. So one of our shared housing communities or one of our shared bedroom communities, I should say. And that is the most expensive option. So for us on campus, it would be the Nike and Hercules communities. So those are our shared bedroom communities that have the highest price rate. Florida prepaid will cover that. They will cover that amount completely, okay? If you want to live in a community that is more expensive than whatever the most expensive shared bedroom option would be, Florida prepaid will cover that amount that we just talked about, and then just any difference after that would need to be paid out of pocket. So say, for example, the Nike and Hercules dorms, say they're $2,500 a semester, right? And then our Neptune community is $3,000 a semester. So Florida prepaid, if you're living in Nike or Hercules, will completely cover the entire dorm fee, the entire $2,500. And if you were living in Neptune, it would, again, still cover the $2,500. You would just be paying an additional $500 out of pocket per semester.
Okay, great. Thank you. Folks, there were some questions that came up about costs and housing rates. We were able to answer most of those through the chat. But do know that the housing website has estimated costs and rates that are up there right now. I don't know, and I don't know if you know, whether there's significant changes from year to year with housing rates, but I have a sneaking suspicion that those are pretty good and pretty stable rates that folks can at least estimate or plan by. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. The rates that are listed on the website are typically good to go as far as a reference point. I don't know the exact percentage, but they're never going to fluctuate any higher than a couple of percentage points, if there is even any change at all. Typically, we go year to year for quite some time without having any financial changes.
Right. Okay. And that's very similar to how tuition is. It's pretty stable and has been stable at UCF for quite some time. Talk to us a little bit about safety and security. Specifically, I'd like to know about locks and how how students have access not just to their residence hall, to their actual room itself, but to the buildings and things like that. How does that work?
Absolutely, and that's typically one of the hot topic questions when we're talking to our parents, isn't it? So as far as safety and security and actually entering your room, so there's several different layers of security that we have in place, right? So when your student gets checked in, their student ID is going to be programmed to be one of their two keys, okay? It also depends on the community that they're living in. Some of our communities, we only use our student IDs as the keys, and then other communities, we do have separate keys, but we'll just go with the student IDs for right now. So once the student ID gets programmed to be the key that grants them access to their room and building, they're also going to be encrypted with their own personalized 4-digit PIN number in addition to that. And so the way that the layers of security we have in place work, so they'll need to swipe their ID, put in the PIN number to get into the building. Then they're going to need to swipe their ID, put in that PIN number again to get into the hallway. And then they're going to have to do it one more time to get into the actual room that they're living in. Okay. And then, like I said before, some of our communities will have different hard keys for the individual bedrooms. Some of them, it'll just be the same as before. It'll be the key card again. But we have every one of our communities has at least 3 layers of security the student has to get through in order to access their room.
Great, perfect. And, I know that Housing and Residence Life, as well as UCF PD and some of the other student support offices on campus, they really, really try and educate students about the importance of personal responsibility when it comes to safety. Certainly, we do our part in ensuring that students are safe and that there are those layers of security. There's also, again, the police presence on campus and RAs and area coordinators and folks from housing that live in the residence in the communities that provide extra support and security there. But there's this element of personal responsibility too, not propping doors open, not
letting folks if you don't know them.
Exactly, not letting random strangers in to the building. So that's something that we train a lot about. And I know that your office does a really tremendous job at communicating those expectations, not just to students who are moving in, but to parents and family members as well. So
Absolutely.
Kudos to you guys for that. Can you talk to us about the furniture that comes in each room? What can students expect when they get there? What are they going to find?
Yeah, so again, this is going to differentiate a little bit based on the community that you're living in, but typically what you can expect as far as the standard issue goes in any of the rooms when you move in. So every room will obviously have the bed frame and it'll have a mattress on top. As a former resident myself, right, just saying, probably want to have some additional support on there. And then in addition to that, it'll also come with a desk and a chair as well. And there will be a dresser in the rooms as well. So you're going to have, just to recap again, you'll have the bed frame with a mattress, desk with a chair, and then you'll also have a dresser. Some of our communities will differ. For example, at Union West, one of the perks is that all of our residents get their own mini fridge. So that's something that differentiates Union West from some of our other housing communities. But that's the standard issue of what you can expect. And again, this is information. If you visit our housing website as well, we do have a breakdown as far as what you can see on there. I would also really highly recommend checking out our virtual tours that I mentioned. If you go to our YouTube page and look at those virtual tour videos on there, it'll actually take you inside the tour room space and you'll be able to see what furniture comes actually in the room based on whichever community you're interested in.
Yeah, great. No, you guys have really put a lot of assets out there for students to get a good look without actually being in the residence halls. Even if you visit campus and go on a housing tour, there's no way to see every possible setup and layout and amenity and feature that exists across campus. So please visit the housing website, take a look at those videos and those floor plans. That'll give you a real good idea of what you're going to be walking into. How about specifically single rooms in any of our communities? And the student is asking about Lake Claire, Neptune, and Towers. Are those all communities that have your own bedroom? Is that something that's kind of guaranteed in those communities?
Yes, and I do want to add an important point that I didn't really get to in the presentation, because I'm very glad that question came up, because typically whenever incoming freshmen are coming in, that is our probably number one asked question is, how can I get my own bedroom? So Lake Claire and Neptune are both private bedroom options, and they are apartment style. So it will be, 4 bedrooms, and we'll have 2 bathrooms in each. Lake Claire and Neptune are part of our academic agreements, okay? So that includes those communities, shared bedrooms that we were referencing, Nike, Hercules, Apollo, and Libra, okay? When you apply for an academic year agreement, you are applying for all of those communities, okay? So you're not submitting an application for Lake Claire. You're not submitting an application for Neptune. You're submitting an application for any of those academic communities that fall under the academic year agreements, right? Now, where the actual process of getting into those rooms comes into play is the room selection process that we talked about a little bit ago. So that's why we really, really stress as much as we can for incoming freshmen, housing on campus is first come, first serve. And so we really recommend that as soon as you find out that you have, as soon as you've made that decision that you're coming to UCF, go ahead and submit your housing application. Those room selection appointment times, again, are based on when students submitted their whoever submits their housing applications first are going to be the ones that get the spots in Lake Claire or Neptune. So it's very, very imperative that if you are interested in living in either of those communities, Lake Claire or Neptune, that you submit your housing applications as soon as possible. Now, to differentiate that from the towers, when you're applying for the towers, you're only applying for the towers. So if you want a hard guarantee of, I know for 110% certainty that I'm going to have my own bedroom, you're going to want to apply for the towers or Northview, because those are our two communities where you're guaranteed to have a private bedroom. Bearing in mind as well, though, those two communities are annual contracts. So they're 3 semesters as opposed to 2.
Good points. There's a question about, I believe the questioner is asking about the living learning community that's for honors in the towers. Do you know if honors students are guaranteed to live in that community, in that LLC, if they are part of the honors college, or are there limited number of spots for that?
Yep, and that's a great question. I'm very glad that got asked. So no, it is, as far as honors students go, you're not automatically granted admission into the honors college living learning community. Any of our living learning communities that you want to be a part of, whether it's the honors LLC, whether it's like the aforementioned healthy nights that we talked about, those are all going to be separate applications from your housing application. So when you're filling out your housing application, it'll ask you on there if you're interested in one of the living learning communities, and if you are, you'll indicate which one. So for example, if we have a student coming in that's been admitted to the honors college and they're interested in the honors LLC, they'll indicate that on their housing application and then be directed to the appropriate form to fill out to submit an application. Similar to any on-campus housing related matters for freshmen, it is going to be on a first come first served basis. So the sooner that you submit your housing application, the sooner you'll be able to get a seat in the honors college LLC in addition to that.
Sounds good. Looks like there are 2 more questions. So let's talk about visiting first.
Okay.
Are students allowed visitors such as friends and family into their residence halls throughout the academic year? And what are some tips maybe for bringing visitors in?
Right. That's a very good question. So there's kind of 2 parts to answer that. So the first part is, yes, students are allowed to have visitors come over and spend time with them at their dorms. The additional part to that, at the beginning of each semester, after you've moved in, okay, the next part of that process is that you and all of the folks that you're actually going to be living with all going to own with your RA that's on your floor, okay? And you guys are actually going to draw up a literal contract that's going to be decided upon by all of the residents that are living in the space, okay? That includes everything from when do we want quiet hours to be, what do we want the temperature to be, and what do we want our visitor policy to be. So we do allow students to bring guests over and to bring visitors over, but as far as the actual quote unquote regulation of that, it is going to be pretty internal and up to the students in a lot of ways. That's a process that we feel is best worked out amongst the roommates, because everybody, is going to have different preferences as far as, one student may say, I'm not really comfortable with someone staying for that length of time, and someone else may. So that's why we have the RA there to mediate those conversations and have everybody come to a conclusion that fits what everyone's most comfortable with.
That's great. That's a good exercise, I'm sure, for students to go through at the very beginning of their college career. So good. All right. So we will end with a question that might be on a lot of people's minds, and that is, when do housing signups, or when is the application open for freshmen?
Yes. So as of right now, we do not have an official date as to when it's going to be opening. I wish that I did. Typically, those dates are going to get released a little bit closer to once we're getting closer to the fall semester. If anybody is going to be applying for this coming spring semester, those applications will be opening towards the end of this month and beginning of next month. But for anybody who would be starting in the summer of 2022 or the fall of 2022, the summer applications will typically open up around around mid-spring, and fall applications will typically open up around the same time frame. And it is also important to note, as I'm sure you guys have probably gone over in other presentations as well, if you do have a student that's going to be coming in and starting in the summer semester, so if they're going to be starting doing summer B as a freshman, they will need housing 2 separate times. So they will submit a housing application specifically if they want to live on campus for summer B for the summer semester. And then if they're interested in living on campus again beyond the summer into the fall, they're going to go back into their MyUCF and they're going to reapply for a new agreement starting in the fall semester.
2 different applications,
Yeah,
only for summer students.
Yes.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I think this concludes our session. We're a few minutes early here, so I want to thank all of you for hanging out with us for the last about 46 minutes or so. And Vince, certainly thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate your expertise and sharing your
Absolutely.
wisdom with us. This information will be posted on our YouTube page. This video, the recording of it, will be posted there within the next 72 hours or so. So if there are things that you missed or want to go back and review or revisit, you're welcome to do so. Vince mentioned it many, many times throughout his presentation, though. There's a lot of really rich content on the housing website. So it's very simple, housing.ucf.edu. And you can view floor plans and watch videos and get pricing and all of that good stuff there. So we encourage you to visit that. You're certainly welcome to contact us in the Office of Admissions too for any questions relating to your application or the admission process. But for now, we're going to wrap it up and say thanks again. We appreciate everyone being here. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too.